Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. High count men are complex. And this is a follow-up of the one I did yesterday talking about you have to adjust for different women. Now, see, here's the thing. Here's a secret. I'm going to give y'all this some game. This is free game. This is free game. This is the key to everything. Thing is, I'm going to say it, but I ain't going to say it in a direct way. Y'all just got to pick up what I'm saying. But high count men have to be complex. See, here's the thing. Now, you get some guys, they'll come on here and say, yeah, I hit this count. I've been with this many women, and I can do this and that. But here's the thing with it. I already know most of them lying. I already know. Because what the thing is, since women have different personalities, different social classes, different religions, all of them are at a place where they want to relate to somebody in that same thing. See, that's a key to women. Relations. They want to be able to relate. Women, once they get stuck in a certain paradigm, they pretty much stay in that paradigm. You know, I've talked about the imprint. You know, I talked about the imprint. You know, that imprint pretty much informs the type. If the men who imprinted her were a certain social class group or anything, they'll tend to stick to that. Remember, it's not absolute; it's a preference. So, you know, if a woman was imprinted by like some religious type of men, she tends to want to stick with that. She'll go outside of that, but you know, that's the guy she's going to be most comfortable with. So let's get back to high count men. You know, unless that high count man is in a social situation where he's getting the same type of women, like in the same octane or for example, he might work in a place where there's a bunch of 87 octanes. You know, those women looking for good husbands or something like that. They still get down with them dude just for the sex and everything. You know, if he's in that social environment with yet another mentor would call a target-rich environment. Okay, maybe. But most men aren't in that position. Most men aren't in jobs or social classes where it's mostly women anyway. You know, even the men in the church. They unless they in a big mega church, when big mega churches usually, even though the church has mostly women, you know, they competing with the minister or something. No, but see, the high count man, if he going to get a high count, he has to have the ability to deal with different women in different places where they are at. So the high count man is that guy who can go up to the 85 octane, that ratchet woman, and be, you know, you can spit that fire. But then he could do that in the morning. You can get her, probably, you know, go to Motel 6 or behind 7-Eleven, do what he do with her real quick. But then that evening, because he's complex, usually he can go to the other side of the equation and deal with that 92 octane. Now, there's a certain characteristics I've seen with men who could do that. Certain characteristics I've seen. It's interesting because it's always the same thing. Usually the men who have that high count, who can get that high count, you look at their background. In most cases, they started, most cases, and there's an exception to that I've seen. They started at a place where they might have grew up in a poor area. They grew up in a poor area they grew up in a poor area, but they were that type. They were, as Cousin Tito would call them, a Malik. They weren't type. They were a genius bruiser. They were that type. They grew up around thugs, the poor, whatever, but they were still smart. So usually what happens is they growing up in that area, and probably their first women were probably like those little hood chicks anyway. They hooked up with her, but then as they were moving up, they might have went to college. You might see a lot of athletes who go through that. You know, they were in a poor neighborhood. They go to college, get exposed to something, or even in high school. Sometimes you get a lot of these high schools that recruit kids from a poor neighborhood to play on their sports team. You know, they get exposed to something, and then they get used to that. Then they already have it in their arsenal to deal with the poor woman, but then they can deal with that more working class woman, and then as they move up, they can deal with that more high class woman. You know, and it could be on jobs, school, whatever. And that's usually what the case. So it's like they can do the levels. And that's the key to it. That's the key. And they've been exposed to so many different types of women that they can adjust to that woman without thinking about it. It's an automatic thing. Now, I said in most cases, that's a guy from a poor background. But you have another thing. You got some guys who they might have come from a middle class or rich background. What I found with them, and they got a high count, what I found with them, something happened to put them in a position where they dealt with other sides of life. Now, I've known, you might get that middle class dude who, for whatever reason, dips down a bit. You know, some unfortunate circumstances get him to the point he has to live in a poor neighborhood for a while, or deal with poor people or a different class of people, more ratchet type of women. He, after a while, even if he ain't attracted to him at first, he starts adjusting. Maybe he's working with him or something, whatever the case. And another case there could be because where I live, there are a lot of halfway houses for drug abusers, and these ain't poor. They're like, you gotta pay for this. you have to pay for this. So these people, they coming back, they've had 6-figure jobs, some were millionaires making money, but they got into the drug culture. And that's one thing. Once you get into like some real drug culture on some level, you dealing with a different type of person. So they'll learn there something that brought them down, and that's the key. And it's like all a part of their personality. See, here's the key with personality. Here's the key. It's not you, as you learn stuff, it becomes a part of it. It's like I don't know, we got a lot of Dragon Ball Z fans. You know, Goku go through something, learn something new, and he still, he can still go Super Saiyan 1. It's easy for him, but then he'll learn some stuff so he can go full Ultra Instinct. And that's the thing. And that's the key. Like if whenever somebody, because see, one thing, whenever, like if as a man I have a conversation with another guy and he shows a wide range of things that he can like expound upon intelligently, like, we might be able to talk ball, or we might be able to talk some shit that just be happening on a street level, or then we can talk some complicated stuff about some geopolitics or something. I'm like, okay, he probably have it because he's able to relate to more women, thus giving him more opportunity. Now, there's some, like I said, there's even an exception to that if a guy is in a target-rich environment. Like it could be and usually the target-rich environments I've seen that work like that is maybe a retail store, like a big, large department store, because you'll have mostly women, so you would get that one guy who gets in there and he can, he starts running through the different women, especially on the low. Or he works someplace. It could be there. I seen that there. I seen that at gyms. Especially at a gym, you might get that one personal trainer, boom, he doing half the women there. Or that real muscular dude, all the women like talking to. Shoot. A mentor I mentioned earlier, he said, "Shit, go to a yoga studio for 6 weeks." The women be interested in you. If you, just because you probably one of the few men in there, the women going to find their way to you. Now, but those are exceptions. In most cases, the dude who really have a high count can do the levels easily, because he's just exposed to more women, and then he can relate to more women. Now, anyway. Like I said, I put some serious game out there I would usually charge for. I wonder who picks up on it. Anyway. And it wasn't the obvious thing I said. So, anyway. About, being complex. So, anyway. That's it for now. Y'all have a great day now. Peace and many blessings.